And then at the end, we'll open it up for questions, and then feel free to unmute yourself. It's just, I know with this many people, yes, Mark, we did receive your questions. And that with this many people, it's difficult with talking over each other. So that's why the chat box is the best way to do it. Oh, okay. I'll just give it one more minute. Let me see, because we had 114 registered, but we're only at 50. I know everybody's getting ready to open, hopefully.
You're at 150 registered.
Yeah. I like scrolling through and seeing everybody's name I know. Suzanne Bowley's on. Hi, Suzanne. And Denise, I see everybody. So nice. I can't wait to see people in person. Even though when we can go back to the office, I don't think you're going to see me back in the office. I'm going to be running around the state visiting everybody. Ah, Mr. Janarone's here. Okay. All right. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know, this is Mary Lou Halverson. I'm the president of the Restaurant and Hospitality Association. And the purpose of today's webinar is to go over the outdoor dining guidelines, as well as discuss the ABC COVID-19 extension permit. And then obviously, if you have any questions about the cocktails to go. So we do have Tommy Janarone on the call with us, who is an ABC attorney. So he certainly can provide a lot of really good insight and information. And also a member of the association, as is Bar Anticipation. So thank you, Tommy. I see you on mute there. We also should be having Bill Manley from the Department of Health. He was on our webinar last week. So I anticipated he was going to be on again today, but for whatever reason he isn't. If there are questions asked that I don't have an answer to, I am happy to go back and try and get some clarification for y'all. So again, I just want to thank you.
One moment, Mary Lou. Bill is on. I just unmuted you, Bill.
Oh, great. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say, I think we're all looking, getting anxious that the first phase of reopening for our industry is starting. Unfortunately, it's not Friday, as I keep stressing to the governor's office how important a Friday opening would be. I did get a message this morning because I sent an email, because what we are seeing, I think, especially those of you that are up and down in shore communities, is that people are here, they're getting their food, and they're basically sitting all over the place, eating their food, garbage is being left, and it's not a very sanitary environment. So it would be certainly a lot better for everybody and public health if you were allowed to have people sit at tables and you were able to serve them and have the staff there to clean. So I did make a last-ditch plea this last night to the governor's office, asking them, and I heard I will get a phone call at some point today, but I'm not quite sure if that means that they're just going to politely tell me no, or if they're giving it some consideration. I think they're even seeing what's happening, and they're getting calls from mayors of shore communities really kind of encouraging that we need to let outdoor dining start. As far as when any kind of indoor dining is happening, you know, that's a really good question. I think if you're seeing all the activity that's happening around the state, and I know today he's going to get on and he's going to talk about opening things like, you know, mini golf, some of the outdoor amusement type activities. And then supposedly he'll be talking as well about houses of worship. And I think once you look to do things inside, then certainly we have a great case for allowing some sort of indoor dining to happen pretty quickly, because as we all know how well everybody on this call and our members do sanitation. So You know, again, I wish I had definite answers for you. We do try to update you as often as possible. Shah has been sending emails out as soon as we get any kind of update. And I certainly try and do as much reach out as I can. But if you ever have a question, never hesitate to reach out to the association. Our office is, technically there's no one in the office but Karen, but our calls are getting rerouted to staff members. So we're certainly here to obviously answer any questions. We're starting to schedule Serve Safe classes, so you'll be hearing more about that as well. So again, I just want to go through the outdoor dining protocols. And as you know, last week, the governor had released the guidelines, which we were surprised that some prescriptive measures that we actually had put in our dining guide were not included. So again, if you could just mute yourself, I hear somebody's music in the background. Thank you.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can you mute yourself? I hear hello, hello. Okay. Food establishments offering outdoor areas pursuant to the Executive Order 150. So obtaining all required municipal approvals and permits before offering food and or beverage consumption. Just so you know, so that is obviously very specific to the extension for the liquor license. You definitely have to, I'm sorry, can someone mute themselves? I hear you. Thank you. You have to get that permit. Food.
Pharmacy network? Pharmacy?
Shah, can you mute everybody, please? I'm sorry, I'm just getting distracted. So you will have to get your extension permit through Posse, which we will go over that. You don't really need a food extension unless your municipality requires it.
I'm sorry, I don't understand you. I have to get somebody who can speak better English. Sorry.
You have to post signage at the entrance that states that no one with the fever symptoms of COVID-19 should enter. We do have on our website the promise, which is in English and in Spanish. So I encourage you just to download that and use that verbiage. That's NJRHA.org. And again, that is in both English and Spanish. Limiting seating maximum of 8 per table and arrange the seating to achieve the minimum distance of seating between parties. Now, there was a lot of discussion on our last call on Friday of whether that is between tables or chairs. And I believe Bill had told us that that was between chairs and not tables. So from chair to chair. And Bill, correct me if I'm saying anything that is incorrect. Rope off otherwise marked tables, chairs, bar stools not being used. You need to kind of mark 6 feet spacing in patron waiting areas. And we do encourage you not to have people congregate into your foyer area. Use things like texting if there's a wait for tables, calling people, using an app, but do not have people congregate inside your front of the restaurant or the bar. Provide physical guides as far as taping on the floor, sidewalk signage, so that people are staying 6 feet apart while they're waiting to be seated or to be used the restrooms. Eliminate self-service food or drink options such as buffet salad bars and service station drink stations. And this is really geared towards our quick service people, McDonald's and Wendy's and those types, that you cannot have your self-service anything really. That all has to go away. Even if you're using, let's say, you get your hot dog and then you want to walk over and have relish and mustard put on there. You can't have those pumps at the relish and mustard station, right? They have to have the personal condiments. That can be, people can get that themselves or they can be handed that, but they can't have the big ketchup thing, the pump to put all over your French fries. All that has to change. Install physical barriers and partitions at cash registers, bars, host stands, and other areas where maintaining a physical distance of 6 feet. Again, we had a good discussion about this, and obviously, because someone had suggested if you have a bar and you don't want to put the partition up, but if your server is in a face shield, that is basically achieving the same goal. And when Bill was on that, I think we we kind of came to that same consensus. And actually, if the bar is between the customer, the bar, and the server, if there is a 6 feet distance, then you're in the clear. Texting. You know, I was just saying that if you're waiting, someone just asked a question about texting, question mark. If you have a wait in your restaurant and people are waiting for tables, you don't want them sitting inside. You might want to just get their number and then text them when the table is ready. Yeah, you don't need a special app to text the customers, just a phone. That's what Tommy is saying. That's right. There are some apps that some restaurants are using, but yeah, just get a, but I don't want to text them from my personal phone. Yeah, well, I mean, that's just my way, is you just don't want people congregating inside the front of your establishment. So just whatever system works for you. Disinfect all tables, chairs. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. Menus, condiments, pens. I do encourage you to use, especially to create consumer confidence on things like disposable menus and personal condiments. So even though it was not dictated in the guidelines, I certainly encourage that, because I think people will be more comfortable knowing that they're not getting a menu that someone may have touched, even though you know that it's been clean. So as much contactless protocols that you can put in place is important. Ensure 6 feet spacing between workers and customers, except when they're serving the table or payments. I think that's self-explanatory. Require infection control practices, regular hand washing. You know, this is all basic serve safe stuff that you all know. So I'm not, you know, going to get too much into that. One of the things is they talked about contactless payments, but you do all know that in the state of New Jersey, you are required to accept cash. You cannot discriminate against cash paying customers. So in some form or another, if someone has cash, you do have to accept that. That's an existing law. Place conspicuous signage alerting staffs, again, about the 6 feet social distancing. Yes, require all food and beverage establishments to have an inclement weather policy that, if triggered, would require food or beverage establishments to adhere to the Executive Order 125. So I want to just talk about this for a second, because I've had several debates with people in the governor's office. I think Bill Manley feels the way we do here, that as we know in New Jersey, all of a sudden a storm can come up and thunder and lightning can happen. If you have a family sitting outside, you can't make them wait outside while you box up their food to go, right? I think there has to be some sort of plan, and that would have to allow them inside, even if it's just to box their stuff up and let them take it. Some might go to the car, but you know, if they go to the car, they're not paying. So I think you need to, I was told, no, you're not allowed to leave them and let them inside. I think that that's going to change. I think that everyone with any common sense knows you cannot leave people out there if there's a lightning storm. So again, we'll provide further guidance on that, but I just think that that would put people in extremely a dangerous situation. Again, going back to requiring employees to wash hands, obviously all your serve safe protocols will be in place. Conduct daily health checks, temperature screening, and/or symptom checking of employees safety and respectfully, and in accordance with applicable privacy laws and regulations. So in the state of New Jersey, you have HIPAA laws, and if you are taking your employees' temperatures, and this does not require that. If it says conduct daily health checks, temperature screening, or symptom checking. But if you are taking their temperatures and you do log that, you need to lock that paper away in a separate file that is for that employee's medical records. And that's pretty much, I mean, it's going to be very onerous. You can just take their temperature and not log it. That's fine. Or you can just do basic temperature checking. But if you're going to go down the road of temperature taking, just make sure that you're following all the all the privacy protocols. I'm sorry. I'm just reading some of these, and I'll go through the questions after. So that's actually better than what we had suggested, because we did suggest temperature taking, but I guess they were concerned as well about privacy laws. Obviously requiring employees who are not feeling well to be sent home. Requiring employees to wear face coverings except when doing so would inhibit the health and require the employees to wear gloves when in contact with customers and handling food. Okay, so this is back of house. It is our understanding that if you are working over a stove, a grill, in the kitchen, in the heat, you do not have to wear, those employees do not have to wear masks. That would be dangerous for someone to stand over a stove, a hot stove, and have to wear a mask. And again, I believe that Bill from the Department of Health agrees with me on that. And I'm just trying again to get clear guidelines on that, because that is extremely dangerous for your staff who are in a hot kitchen on a 90-degree day to be wearing a mask.
Mary Lou?
Yeah.
If I could, the clarification to that was, if that is only if social distancing is met. In other words, if there's two people working the line and they're less than 6 feet apart, I think what Bill said is that they would have to wear a mask.
But if they're over the line, but if they're over the stove, yeah. And I just think that a hot kitchen, I think we're going to have to go back and advocate on that one, because I just think that could be very dangerous. People passing out.
I agree with you.
Mary Lou?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear? This is Bill Manley.
Hey, Bill.
Okay, so yeah, we sent that question up to our legal office, and we're waiting for a formal response from them. But I think in talking, we all agree that if it's a health, a safety hazard, then that is probably going to be okay. And remember, these things are going to come up as a question. I mean, if there are complaints. I don't believe there's going to be routine inspections to outline this, to look at this. And this whole situation hopefully is going to be temporary as well. So we'll go from there. But we will get a clarification on that, whether it's required or not.
Okay. And also, Bill, while I have you as well, just on the inclement weather, because that could create a lot of confusion if a storm happens. And, I mean, you can imagine that, a family with young children and there's a lightning storm and they're told by that restaurant they're not allowed inside for cover. I mean, that's going to put the restaurants and the bars at risk, right? They're going to, I mean, that just could create a huge problem.
We would agree with that as well. And again, our guidance is, interpretation of the executive order. So the governor's office is going to have the final say. I mean, so if you're in contact with the governor's office and they say this or that, I mean, it's their executive order. What we're going through here is our interpretation of the executive order.
Yeah. An interpretation.
But I agree with you.
Okay. And we do have a guide. We do have that understanding that health will be handling these guidelines and ABC will be handling the liquor guidelines. Is that correct? There won't be any crossover.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any crossover. No.
Okay. Where was I? And I will get to the questions. I promise I see them coming up. Provide all employees with face coverings and gloves. If you're having a hard time procuring PPE, go to our website. We have several companies that are selling PPE. We've actually tried. We have a lot, so you shouldn't have any problem getting it. Provide employees break times for hand washing, self-explanatory. Provide sanitation materials such as hand sanitizer and sanitation wipes to staff.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Halverson. This is Louis from the Galloping Hill in Union.
Hi, Louis. How are you?
Good. One question for you about the catering business, inside, of course, because we have no outside. You have any word yet when we could?
Yeah, I saw that question. I'll get to that at the end. After I go through these, I'll do a recap on the catering. No problem.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, there's a lot going. Yeah, we have a whole other group for that, but I'll inform customers that safety measures such as social distancing, face coverings when they're away from the table and unable to socially distance. For example, when they're going into the bathroom. Someone asked me a question, do they have to wear their face coverings when they walk to the table? They should wear their face coverings up until the time when they sit down. And then if they get up to use the men's room or the ladies' room, they should also wear their face coverings inside the restrooms. Unless they do have a medical condition that they are unable to wear a face covering, and then you have to adhere to the ADD, Americans with Disability Act. You cannot ask them what their disability is. And Tommy, you're an attorney, so I'm assuming that's correct, right? But you do have to take them at their word that they have a disability and that they can't wear a face mask.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And I would think that that's things like asthma or other types of issues. Let me just encourage reservations for greater control of customer traffic and volume. You are not required to take reservations. I think that was a concern, that everybody was going to have to take reservations, take information. In this protocol here for outdoor dining, you do not have to take reservations. You are encouraged, if people do make reservations, obviously you get a phone number, which I think you do anyway, but there is no requirement for reservations. Alert customers via calls or texts to limit touching and use of shared objects such as pagers and buzzers. You encourage the use of digital menus, decline entry to the indoor portion of the establishment to a customer who is not wearing a face covering, again, unless they have a medical reason not to be wearing them. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions that we had regarding the Department of Health, and then we're going to go on to ABC. And I think Tommy's going to be able to answer most of our questions there. I don't want them text. Let me go back up. What government department will be monitoring the guidelines? These guidelines should be the Department of Health. Your local or county Board of Health should be the ones that are monitoring anything dealing with these guidelines. What are the citation amounts? I don't know what the citation amounts are. I think right now for operating indoors, I did see one diner down in Lacey got fined $1,000.
What, Mary Lou, do you want me to answer that stuff now or wait?
No, go right ahead, Tommy, jump in.
Okay. Yeah, it's a, I can send it to you. For violating any order, it's the same as if you're driving on the highway during a snowstorm and you're not supposed to be driving. It's up to $1,000 and up to 6 months in jail. I mean, no one's going to get put in jail, I'm sure, but I think the ceiling on the fines $1,000.
Wow. Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how many of these violations are actually, prosecuted.
And that's on the executive order. That has nothing to do with the ABC. If you have a liquor license, the ABC has their own violation, and the ABC's violation is that if you violate another regulation, that violates an ABC regulation. So it's kind of what they say is you broke the executive order, or you violated a borough ordinance, and therefore we are going to also penalize you for doing the same thing as they penalized you for. So the ABC does have their own violation for that, and they have used that in earlier cases where bars were serving people when they weren't supposed to have anyone in there.
Okay, thank you. The kitchen staff question, I think, Lisa, we'll have to get back to you on any kind of definite answer. It's my understanding, obviously, that that's the way we were walking this, was those working over stoves and heating, hot equipment should not have to. But if you obviously have an open kitchen, you can make that decision for yourself.
Mary Lou?
Yeah.
Just on that same tone, it's not just the stove. One of the things that I find in wearing a mask is it's very hard for me to look down, especially since I wear glasses and my glasses are constantly fogging up. Sharp knives are also, it's really a problem to try and butcher a fish wearing a mask and using glasses. So the whole kitchen staff cooking thing is, I think, what we should try and push for the exemption for. This is dangerous. I mean, knives are freaking dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sounds like you were not part of the guidelines, Patrick, which is interesting. Yes, actually, we've had numerous talks with the governor's office, and most of the what we have are actually our guidelines, but scaled down, which not as prescriptive. So, which is good that I think they realize that some of it, we tried to give them something credible and they appreciated it. And as is with our other plans. So we hope they'll follow along and use our plans as well. If inclement weather does not occur, at any time during the dining experience, are we to ask guests to leave, or are we able to move them inside? I think you can certainly put a time limit on tables, right? You know, I'm seeing that a lot, that people are trying to limit it to seatings of, you know, an hour and a half at a table. And I would hope people would understand at this point, they shouldn't just be sitting there for hours on end. But no, you're not allowed to have anyone inside at this point. Do we treat them as takeout customers? What will the protocol entail? I'm not quite sure I 100% understand that question. So if you want to talk offline, we can. Are we required to take temperatures of our customers? No, you do not have to do that. You don't even need to, you're not even required to do your staff. That's going to be up to you, but you should be doing some sort of health check, at least making sure that your staff coming in feels good. You should be asking them those questions, and you should put signage up front asking guests not to come in to your restaurant if they're not feeling well, so you can protect your staff. Are we submitting the special permits with our floor layouts, but some towns still have not clarified what will be allowed? Do we have any idea how quickly these will be approved? Steve, we'll come back to that as soon as we go through the those guidelines. Will you be sending out a recap of this meeting? I'm not able to sit through the entire meeting. It is being recorded, and this and the one that we had on Friday are both going to be available up on our website. So you can listen at a later date.
Mary Lou?
Yep.
I can add something to the inclement weather thing, and is that what you'll find is you really should have some sort of umbrellas or coverings for diners, and I think you'll find that the sun is a bigger player, assuming you'll be doing an afternoon thing. Sun's much bigger player than the rain is, and people are going to want to be shielded from the sun. So I don't think the association is going to be able to give you a plan for inclement weather. That's going to be on a facility by facility basis. But what I'm just telling you is that in advance of all this, you should be prepared to cover as many customers as possible, because I think you're going to need it. Even if it never rains a drop, you're going to need it from the sun anyway.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I'm really hoping that this is going to be just a, as Bill said, just a quick thing that we have to deal with. But, you know, we do know that the summer is ticking along, and this is important. One question, and this is really a bar question, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I know that someone had asked if you have a bar, but it's outside, you're still allowed to serve alcohol, right, Tommy?
Yes, yeah, you would treat the bar as a table, so to speak. So you wouldn't be able to have social distancing applies to a bar, whether there's one stool, and you know, and I would say based on the directive, you could have 8 people at that bar as long as they're all in one party.
Yeah, and one thing that came up in our last call, and Bill, I think Bill touched on this, that if for whatever reason, or if you want to put plexiglass between your tables, you do not need to have the 6 feet distancing if there is a partition between the tables. Bill, I'm correct, right, in what you said last week?
Yeah, I believe so. That's still correct.
Okay. So, yeah.
Getting back to your original point, though, you know, this guidance document that we put out is put out by the Department of Health. It's an interpretation of the executive order, But my understanding of the enforcement of this, even though the health departments will be involved in some of this as far as the setup and, part of the municipal approvals, the enforcement is still under the police. This is still under the executive order. So I don't believe that this is something that the health department is going to come in and cite. They may get complaints. They may be the initial investigators of a complaint, but this is not something that they're going to be issuing summonses on.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I just had a question. Is somebody allowed to sit at the bar stool or just walk up and stand and go? I believe they can sit there, right? As long as they're socially distanced from the people, or their party is socially distanced from the next party. Is that correct, Tommy?
Yes.
Are there restrictions on sidewalks or tents? All of that is going to be up to your municipality. So I definitely would reach out to your mayor and council, because I know a lot of towns are really trying to be proactive about and getting creative about closing roads, using parks, sidewalks, things like that.
Mary Lou, maybe did I see that in the ordinance, if you're under a tent, the spacing for tables goes to 8 feet, even if all 4 sides are open. I believe that's what the ordinance, the executive.
And it's not between tables. Bill had said it's between chairs.
Between chairs. Got it.
Well, because it's worded as between customers or between patrons, not between tables.
Got it. But just be aware, because we were looking at putting the tent out, but that increases by 2 feet. How far we have to set the tables apart, and it just wasn't worth it.
The other thing is just understand that I know there's been a lot of talk that if you can only have a covering, a roof, a tent. You cannot have walls, because I had one, and I think it was Bahama Breeze. They have a lot of open, 3/4 open, and then maybe just one wall. If there's any kind of permanent structure, that's not considered outdoor. It has to be totally outdoor. You can have a pergola, a tent, a roof, certainly, but you just can't have walls. And even on the tent, the walls have to be up. How fast is the extension for alcohol? Okay, we'll get to that. This is all based on interpretation. Yep. Erin, I think Bill just answered that. This is going to be the police, since it is under the executive order. Have we heard about capacities yet? No. Where is the tent regulation of 8 feet? I don't see that. Let me just see. I'm going to just get back to you, because I agree, Denise. I think that there's some confusion about that.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
I don't
Question,
think that's
Mary
the
Lou?
case.
Is there a difference between a tent or a canopy?
Nope, as long as there's no sides.
So like a tent, you're saying a tent is basically a canopy?
Yeah.
Okay, and there has to be 8 feet between that then?
I'm looking at that. I think that there's some confusion about the tables. I don't think it says you can only have a maximum of 8 customers per table, and it says a minimum distance of 6 feet between parties. So I don't know where the 8 feet is coming from.
Yeah, you know what? I saw that somewhere. And Mary Lou, is it possible that was from the restaurant guidelines that were suggested to the governor?
Yeah, it could have been the restaurant guidelines. So it's only 6 feet, Francis. It's not 8 feet. It's 6 feet. If you look at the guidelines that were issued under Executive Order 150.
Great. We had suggested 8 feet. I guess they didn't adopt that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they gave us better than what we asked for.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So 25 or 50%, there is, for outdoor dining, there is no capacity limitation. This Mark says, yes, picnic tables, they're okay if it's one party together. Yep. Someone suggested another place for PPE, which is great. Are plastic plates, plastic utensils required to function? You don't have to have that. There's nothing that says that you only have to use plastic. You can certainly use your real silver or plates. Obviously, you're cleaning them it's such a high temperature. So no, you don't have to do that. And I'll go through, make sure I might have missed some questions because they were coming in quickly, but I do want to get on to the alcohol because everybody wants to get onto alcohol, including me. Let me just see. I just want to make sure I didn't, from someone who operates outside normally, the seagulls will find these outdoor places if they're at all close to the shore. Absolutely, you'll need umbrellas. Yes, you will. Okay, so Tommy, do you want to walk us through what the ABC, the COVID-19 permit is? Do you want me to do that,
Sure.
or you want to do that?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I don't even know that there's anything written about it, but if you go to the POSSE system, it says COVID-19 extension of premises. I believe. I've done one or two already, and it's not. There's you're gonna need a diagram of the extension places. Now, here's what you need to do. Here's what I found, because I did one very early before the town came with guidelines, and this speaks to the question that someone had asked about the local municipalities. And I think this is where we're going to run into some problems, because already municipalities are coming out with more restrictive guidelines than what the state has. For example, some of the municipalities are limiting hours of operation in the extension areas. Belmar and Lake Como are limiting it to 10 o'clock. There's other municipalities that are limiting it to even sooner than that. And it's just all kind of coming out now. And certain municipalities are requesting diagrams that have a lot more information than what the state does. So when you go through the state application, you'll see it's going to ask for your square footage. It's going to ask you for a security plan. It's going to ask you for a diagram, and the diagram doesn't have to be an architectural plan. It can be a rough sketch, just so that if an ABC agent shows up, they need to be able to look at the diagram and say, okay, this is a licensed area. This is not a licensed area. So that's the most important part. However, again, a word of caution that the local municipalities may want table configurations. The state's not asking you for where your tables are, but the local municipalities are going to ask you for tables where the ID checkers are, and ingress, egress, and there may be other things. So it's important to speak to the municipality and send in your application sooner rather than later, because you may send in that application and think you have a plan in place, and all of a sudden the town's going to derail you. So you want to have as much time as possible to figure out how exactly you're going to operate come Monday.
Yeah, and I think the good point is that you log in to POSSE first, and that's where you'll find the permit application. It's not on the front page of the ABC, but I do, and Tommy's right, they do want to know how you're going to monitor that outdoor space with things like, to watch for Passovers and underage drinking. I know Mark had asked me a question previously that some of the licensees are having a hard time getting in. I was on an ABC call this morning, and they're getting about 300 applications a day. So I'm sure if it's anything like the unemployment system, it's probably only able to handle just so much. So I do know that's a problem, but just, get it in as soon as you can. And if anyone's having any problems, let me know, certainly.
Yeah, and Lara just asked about the security plan. Don't drive yourself crazy with things like this. Really, what they just want to know is that you are going to have, for example, a security plan can be very simple. You could say, we have an outdoor area. It is going to be enclosed with 6-foot fencing. We will have 2 persons checking identification upon entry, and we will have no less than 2 people, depending on the crowd, inside to monitor patron activity, or to help social distancing. That's really all you need. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Other than how many people, and they just want to assure. And some of the other now I think about it, this application doesn't ask whether or not you're going to have underage people within that area, because that's one of the things they're going to want to know too, is that this is a dining situation. We have of age and underage people. Part of that security plan should be that there are people monitoring for service. Now, does that have to be security? Maybe yes, maybe no, but they need to know that there are individuals responsible to make sure that no one underage is going to have a drink.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I think there was a question about live bands, and I do believe you can have ABC that was discussed this morning. You can have outdoor entertainment, but they have to be socially distanced, but you can't have dancing. Tommy, am I incorrect with that?
Well, I think everything goes back to the whole social distancing aspect, and I think you're going to get more of an issue from the local municipalities, because I think the local municipalities are looking at this from the standpoint of noise. So I think you're going to find that a lot of municipalities are going to say no live entertainment because they don't want acoustic drums or amplified music outside, because they don't want to start dealing with noise complaints, because in many of these areas, there's going to be outdoor dining in a residential area. So the state, at least in writing, hasn't made any determination of that. My reading is that you certainly can have live music, but again, I think the municipality is where you may run into that issue.
Dawn, I see Dawn completed the application for extension on Friday. There was no COVID-19 option, just the regular extension permit. Who do I contact to fix that and change the permit types?
It's there. It's on Posse.
Did you? Yeah, Dawn, I'm not sure. If you had to log into Posse first, it's not on the front page. It's actually, you have to kind of go into Posse to do it. And that's where this COVID-19 extension permit is.
Yeah, she should have seen it. It's on the same drop-down menu as the regular extension. You know what it might have been? Mary Lou, when was the last meeting?
This morning they had an ABC meeting?
No, the restaurant meeting, the one last week.
Friday.
It was Friday. So what Dawn probably did was, because prior to the meeting, I had looked and it wasn't there yet. And then I understand it popped up later in the afternoon on Friday. So she probably looked when I did, because it wasn't up when I looked on Friday either.
Okay. All right. But it is up now.
Sorry, just to say it is there. I did the application.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a quick update as far as what else I'm hearing. I mean, I know you're all frustrated because we hear casinos are probably going to open up for July 4th weekend, which, is great for the state. It's great for the casinos. But if casinos can open, there shouldn't be any reason why we can't be at 100% capacity. So certainly that is the goal of the association. Things are moving along. We're seeing the numbers go in the right direction. I mean, I think there is some concern about if there'll be a spike after, just the weekends and all the activities we're seeing around the state. But at this point, I think our goal is that if casinos are allowed to be open, then there's no reason why restaurants can't be open at full capacity. I know there's a couple catering halls and they wanted me to get back. I think there's no guidance yet on when, and that's what we want, is when will catering halls be allowed to open? I think more important almost is getting the date so that you can contact your clients and brides, etc. Because I know you're moving them, every day. So that's the important thing, is just getting that date, and hopefully a date will be coming out of when that will. So whether it's an August 1st start or July 1st or whatever it is, a date for that should be coming out next week for the wedding and banquet venues. We do have a subgroup of the Association of Wedding and Banquets. So if you're interested in being part of that, let me know and I can put you on that group call. We have a call every Thursday at 10 o'clock. It's of the very large venues that we have throughout the state. So other than that, obviously we know that we're going to start on Monday, outdoor dining. I keep pushing again for Friday. I think that makes a lot of sense. In 2 days for public health is not that big of a deal. And I'm not saying public health's not a big deal, but I think, a Saturday and Sunday isn't isn't a big deal in that regard, but for the restaurant industry to lose another weekend is a very big deal, especially for our shore businesses that need every weekend that they can get in the summer. Tommy, quick question I had from somebody else was, a bar does not have to serve food. If a bar is set up outside, do they have to serve food, or can they just be just alcohol?
No, the executive order and the regulations say food and or beverage service for food and or beverage establishments.
Okay. Okay.
So if you close the kitchen, you can still stay open for cocktails. You're actually not required to serve food at all.
Okay. Again, just go to the website, and if for anyone who does need some PPE, contact the association if you have any questions. Bill, Manley, any last minute advice, guidance, questions?
No, I don't have anything else. No.
Okay, thank you. Tommy, anything?
No, I'm good. I wish
I
everyone.
would just, I'm sorry. I would just say that we are looking more closely at the face covering issue.
Okay, yeah, and I don't know if you heard Francis's thought about that, about the knives, working with knives.
Yeah,
we heard it. Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just do have one other thing. And I don't know that it's worth bringing up, but I was surprised to see gloves are a requirement in the, is that true? Gloves are a requirement for servers, is that true?
Yes.
I don't know whether it's worth opening the debate again, but obviously gloves are no more sanitary than washing your hands, and you're less likely to wash your hands if you have gloves, and we've seen that a million times. And this is not generally spread from servers who wash their hands to customers. The gloves are gratuitous and just add to the waiter's misery while working outside on a hot day and fill landfill full of useless gloves. Is there any way we can sort of lobby to get that removed?
Yeah. Well, that I certainly will take that under advisement. Bill, can you guys discuss with your people back there in health about that?
We certainly will. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a very, very good point. And I think it's something that needs to be revisited.
Thank you.
Yeah. Mark, hotel swimming pools, today he's coming out. They're allowed to open up on the 22nd, but the guidance for them is not coming out until today, I believe.
Can you do me a favor in the next couple of days?
I love the accent. Okay, I think that, is there any language referring to overhead fans under a tent or canopy? No, Colleen, I don't believe that there is. It's obviously if you have, you certainly can. I think what I encourage everyone to read it. It's not actually all that cumbersome. It's not all that complicated. And I think that, sometimes we look at things and try and read too much into it. I think we all know what the guidelines, the goal is social distancing and cleanliness. Well, you all know how to do cleanliness. That's a given, right? And the social distancing and just walking through what you in your own individual restaurant, what is that going to look like? And try not to read too much into it. If you're making sure things are clean, if you have, and someone's talking about signage and the signage that, Sharon, it's, if you post the promise that we have on our website outdoors, that you should be good. I don't think we need to make this overly complicated. You all do this day in and day out. So don't try and read too much into things. And if it's not there, like for example, if you want to have fans inside your tent, you can. You don't need to ask permission for that. I think the two takeaways of what we want to continue to kind of push back on, and I think Bill can help us with that, is masks for back of house, gloves, and then what do we do in inclement weather? I think those are the three takeaways. But be creative. And like I said, the association this week we have a video coming out that you're welcome. We're going to put it up on our website. It will walk your customers through what the new dining experience is going to look like. We're going to post it on social media. So then this way customers will understand kind of what the new normal will look like for a while. So that will be available to all of you. So, is there anything else? All right, well, if not, I'll talk with everybody soon. I thank you for your time. And again, mhalverson@njrha.org. If you have any questions, Tommy, do you want to give them your email in case you have some ABC questions?
I would, but what's going to happen is that it's oh, actually my name's on there. It's tjanarone@jerseyshorelawyer.com. So it's a little long, but you could also just Google. It's nightclublawyer.com, my webpage. That's easy to remember. Either jerseyshorelawyer.com or nightclublawyer.com, and all my information is on there.
Okay.
My email and all that other stuff.
Right, and I can always get in touch with them. So Bill, Tommy, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks, Mary Lou. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.